The galaxy was wide, endless, and filled with countless civilizations. There were empires of fire, kingdoms of steel, and nations that stretched across thousands of stars. Each had their armies, their fleets, their pride. But above them all, there was one name that was not spoken loudly, one name that even the strongest rulers whispered only in fear: Earth's Phantom Fleet. It was not an ordinary armada. No record showed its true size, and no spy had ever returned with its secrets. Some believed it was 1,000 ships strong. Others swore it was only a few dozen, but each ship carried the power of worlds. The only truth was this: when the Phantom Fleet appeared, enemies vanished, and when it left, silence followed. There were no banners on their ships, no colors, no bright symbols of empire. They carried no crowns and no declarations. They came from the shadows, struck with precision, and disappeared into the black sea of stars. It was said that no alien fleet, no matter how large, had ever truly defeated them. They were ghosts of war, guardians of Earth. To the people of Earth, the fleet was not a legend. It was their shield, their hope, and their silent promise of safety. For centuries, humanity had stood as a young race in a dangerous galaxy, surrounded by predators with sharper claws and older histories. Alone, Earth could not have survived. But with the Phantom Fleet, they were untouchable. Stories spread like fire in every corner of space. Traders spoke of black ships appearing without warning, surrounding pirate armadas before a single distress call was sent. Warlords cursed the name of the humans, remembering how entire invasion forces were torn apart in minutes, their fleets shredded by weapons no alien could understand. Survivors spoke of ships that moved without sound, without light, faster than thought. They said it felt less like fighting an enemy and more like being hunted by shadows. And yet, for all their power, the humans never used the fleet for conquest. The galaxy was filled with empires that hungered for expansion, worlds that burned for the sake of a crown, and rulers who destroyed millions for pride. But Earth was different. They had one fleet, one secret army, and they used it only when there was no choice. They fought to defend, not to enslave. They struck only when their people were in danger. That was why their enemies feared them more than any empire. Because there was no greater terror than a hunter that hides in silence. Generations passed, and the legend only grew. Some said the fleet was crewed by men and women who gave up their lives never to return home, living only in the dark between stars. Others claimed the ships had no crew at all, that they were controlled by the spirits of those who died protecting Earth, forever bound to their duty. The truth was never known. The humans never explained. They let the galaxy wonder, let their silence grow heavier with every year. And so the galaxy respected Earth, not because of diplomacy, not because of numbers, but because of fear. Even the great Krelln horde, who ruled 500 systems with fire and iron, had once lost 3,000 ships in a single night. Even the proud Ixari Dominion, whose fleets were said to blind the stars with their light, had bowed and signed peace after losing their flagship to a single phantom strike. In every corner of the universe, the same thought whispered in the hearts of rulers. If Earth has such shadows watching, who dares to challenge them? The Phantom Fleet had no face. No one knew their voices, but their presence shaped the galaxy. Empires bent their paths around Earth. Predators found easier prey, and humans lived in safety under their unseen wings. But one day the shadows grew quiet. One day the whispers stopped. The black ships that had haunted the galaxy's nightmares were gone. The Phantom Fleet had vanished. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Rumors travel faster than light in the galaxy. Traders whisper them in spaceports, soldiers murmur them in barracks, and rulers hear them in secret meetings. At first, the whispers were small, hardly noticed. A merchant claimed that the skies near Earth were strangely empty. A scout swore that no human warships followed his vessel when he passed too close. Others laughed at such words. But slowly, piece by piece, the truth began to form. The Phantom Fleet was gone. At first, no one believed it. How could the shadows of Earth simply vanish? For centuries, they had been everywhere, silent, unseen, but always present. They were the reason no alien dared raise a weapon against humanity. And now there was nothing. No hidden patrols, no silent guardians. The dark sky around Earth was empty. The galaxy froze. For ordinary people, it was just a strange story. For the powerful empires, it was a shiver of opportunity and fear mixed together. The predators of the stars smelled weakness. The careful and cautious wondered if a trap waited for them. But on Earth, the truth cut far deeper. Families who had sons and daughters in the fleet sat in silence. They turned on their radios hoping for news, for a voice, for a single message. None came. The stations remained quiet, filled only with static. Mothers stared at empty chairs. Children whispered to fathers, asking when their loved ones would come home. But no answer could be given. The Phantom Fleet had always been secret, but never silent. There were always faint signals, coded transmissions, short bursts of words meant only for those who understood. But now nothing, not even the smallest whisper, came from the black sky. It felt like the heartbeat of Earth had stopped. The leaders of Earth tried to calm their people. They said the fleet was still out there, still watching, still guarding. But even they did not know where the shadows had gone. They too looked at their empty skies and wondered if humanity had been abandoned. Meanwhile, beyond Earth's orbit, alien scouts began to creep closer. The Ixari sent small ships to test the silence. They returned with confused reports. They saw nothing. No human ships followed them. No hidden weapons activated. No sudden attacks came. The Krelln Horde sent their fastest raiders into the edges of human space. They also found nothing. The shadows were truly gone. Fear began to change shape. For the enemies of Earth, it became excitement. For the friends of Earth, it became sorrow. For the ordinary people of the galaxy, it became a dreadful curiosity. The galaxy had lived in balance for centuries, not because of treaties or respect, but because of fear. The Phantom Fleet had been the weight that kept the scale steady. Now that weight was missing and no one knew which way the scale would fall. Yet for all the noise outside, the quiet on Earth was louder. In homes, in cities, in farms, far from the stars, people looked upward. They stared at the night sky not with wonder but with emptiness. Their guardians, their protectors, their silent heroes, gone without a trace. Some prayed, some cursed, some refused to believe. But all of them felt the same hollow truth inside their hearts. The shadows that once made the galaxy fear had left. Earth naked and exposed, and no one knew why. For the first time in living memory, humanity was truly alone. And somewhere, in the deep silence between stars, the fate of the Phantom Fleet remained hidden. The galaxy was never a peaceful place. It was filled with empires that hungered for more stars, warlords who ruled by fire, and species that saw weakness as an invitation. For years, Earth had been protected not only by its fleet, but by the fear that the fleet inspired. No empire dared to strike, because they remembered the shadows that had once destroyed whole armadas in silence. But now, the silence was different. Now the silence meant emptiness. The first to stir were the Krelln Horde. They were a warrior race with blood-stained traditions. Their warlords dreamed of conquering Earth for decades, but fear of the Phantom Fleet kept them in their cages. They still remembered the night when 3,000 of their ships were lost in a single battle. The stars themselves had seemed to vanish under the guns of the humans. That wound had never healed. But when their scouts returned with reports of empty skies, the Krelln warlords gathered in their great halls. They beat their drums of war and sharpened their blades. For the first time in generations, they believed the path to Earth was open. Their hunger grew, and their fleets began to move. The second to stir were the Ixari Dominion. Proud and cunning, the Ixari valued control above all else. They once claimed that their fleets could blind the stars with their sheer numbers, but their pride had been shattered when a single phantom strike destroyed their flagship centuries ago. Since then, they had lived with silent rage. They signed peace treaties not because they wanted peace, but because they had no choice. Now, they began to send spies into human space. They moved quietly, not with fleets, but with whispers and shadows. They wanted to see for themselves if the humans were truly naked. If the stories of the vanished fleet were true, their leaders debated in golden chambers, their voices sharp with greed. If Earth was weak, they would not waste time with mercy. Other empires also began to turn their eyes toward the blue planet. Smaller powers, once too afraid to even speak Earth's name, began to wonder if they could claim a piece of human space. Pirates and raiders who for decades avoided human borders now sharpened their blades once again. The smell of opportunity filled the galaxy like blood in the water, and the predators circled closer and closer. But not all races rejoiced. Some feared. The Lurani Union, who once fought side by side with humans in a forgotten war, held secret meetings. Their leaders asked each other, if the fleet is gone, who will stop the Kreln? Who will stop the Ixari? If Arth falls, will we not be next? They had no answers. In the grand halls of the Galactic High Council, the whispers turned into storms. Rulers who had sworn to keep peace now argued with sharp tongues and trembling voices. Some said humanity was finished. Others warned that it might still be a trick. But in every chamber, in every council, one truth was heavy. The balance of the galaxy had broken. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people felt the shift without even seeing it. They looked at their skies and wondered if the shadows of alien warships would soon blot out the stars. Children asked if the invaders would come. Parents held them close but could not give answers. The safety they had once felt was gone, replaced by a cold fear that grew heavier with each passing day. The predators stirred, and the galaxy trembled. The Phantom Fleet was gone, and humanity stood exposed. The hunters were ready to move. The question was no longer if they would strike. It was only when the galaxy waited. The predators had sharpened their claws, fleets were gathering in silence, and spies had been sent to watch Earth. The news was the same everywhere. The Phantom Fleet was gone. The skies of Earth were empty, and humanity was open. But then, something strange began to happen. The first were the Kreln scouts. They had been sent in secret, flying through the edge of human space, searching for signs of weakness. The warlords waited for their return, but days passed, then weeks. No signal came back. No distress call, no final scream, nothing. The scouts had simply vanished. At first, the Kreln believed their ships had broken down or gotten lost, so they sent more, 10 this time. None of them returned. The silence grew heavy. Warlords who had once roared for battle began to hesitate. They remembered old stories of the Phantom Fleet striking from nowhere. Then it was the Ixari's turn. Their spies slipped into human systems, silent and careful. They reported emptiness at first, clear skies and no sign of warships, but then suddenly their signals cut off. Entire squadrons of them disappeared in the dark as if swallowed by something unseen. The galaxy began to whisper again, but this time, the tone was different. What if the Phantom Fleet is not gone? Some asked. What if it has only hidden? Others whispered. What if they are everywhere and nowhere at once? Rumors spread of strange signals. In mining colonies far from Earth, workers swore they heard ghostly transmissions on their comms. Fragments of human voices, broken words in the static. In border systems, captains claimed to see black shapes drifting in the distance, only for them to vanish when pursued. Pirates who dared to raid near human space told fearful tales. They spoke of shadows moving faster than thought, of weapons that never fired but still destroyed ships, of enemies they could not see. Some said they were haunted, that the spirits of dead human warriors were hunting them in the dark. But no proof ever came. No one captured a human ship, no one brought back wreckage, no one saw the fleet in full. Only silence, only fear. Inside the Galactic High Council, the rulers argued louder. Some demanded war against Earth, claiming that the humans were bluffing. Others shook their heads, saying the risk was too great. If the fleet was still out there, hidden in the shadows, then any attack could awaken it. And so the galaxy hesitated. On Earth, people still did not know the truth. They looked at their empty skies and believed they were unprotected. They could not see the missing scouts, the silent spies, the predators who vanished before they could strike. They only felt fear. Every night, families gathered and wondered if tomorrow would bring alien warships. Children dreamed of fire raining from the stars. Mothers prayed for the return of their guardians. Fathers clenched their fists, wishing they could fight what they could not see. The Phantom Fleet's absence was a wound. Yet, in some strange way, the mystery of their fate was becoming a shield. The predators dared not strike, not yet. Fear was holding them back, fear of the unseen, fear of the unknown. The galaxy stood at the edge of decision. Was Earth truly naked, or was it surrounded by invisible hunters? Were the shadows gone, or were they closer than ever before? No one knew. No one dared to test it further. And so the stars grew restless. The predators circled, the people waited, and the galaxy trembled beneath the weight of a silence that felt more dangerous than war itself. The shadows might have vanished. Or they might be watching still. The galaxy had reached a breaking point. Whispers of the Phantom Fleet's disappearance filled every spaceport, every palace, and every war room. Predators circled, allies trembled, and fear ran deeper than ever before. It was no longer enough to wonder. The galaxy's rulers demanded answers. And so, the Galactic High Council was called to gather. The great chamber was carved into the side of a hollowed moon, its walls lined with glowing crystals and banners of 100 empires. Leaders of the galaxy sat around a vast circle, their faces lit by the pale light of stars outside the chamber's glass ceiling. The air was heavy, thick with suspicion and unspoken fear. The first to speak was Lord Hekrar of the Kreln Horde. His armor shone with blood-red steel, and his voice thundered like a war drum. "The humans are weak," he declared. "Their shadows have left them. Now is the time to strike. Earth lies naked before us, and if we wait longer, we waste our chance." Murmurs rose from the council, some in agreement, some in warning. The Ixari Prime Minister, tall and graceful with eyes like shards of ice, stood next. Her voice was smooth, but her words were sharp. "Do not be so certain, Lord Hekrar. Our spies entered human space, yes, but none returned. Perhaps the humans wish us to believe they are weak. Perhaps they want us to strike first, so their hidden weapons can destroy us all." The chamber grew uneasy. Even those who hated humanity felt the weight of her words. One of the smaller rulers, the Lorani Chancellor, leaned forward, his tone filled with fear. "If Earth falls, the balance will be broken. The Kreln will grow stronger, the Ixari will claim more, and the rest of us will be crushed between them. The Phantom Fleet held back not only war against Earth, but wars across the galaxy. Without them, everything burns." His words spread a chill across the council. Many rulers lowered their eyes, remembering the truth. The Phantom Fleet had been more than Earth's shield. It had been the shadow that kept the predators from tearing apart the galaxy itself. But the council was divided. Some shouted for action, demanding an invasion of Earth before the humans could rebuild their defenses. Others cried for caution, warning that the silence was itself a weapon, that the humans might be luring them into a trap. For days, the debate raged. Voices rose, tempers flared, and old rivalries nearly broke into violence. The chamber shook with anger, fear, and pride. Yet no decision came. Finally, the Speaker of the Council, an ancient being whose race had watched the stars for millennia, raised his trembling voice. "Listen well," he said, his words carrying the weight of centuries. "For as long as the humans walked among the stars, they hid their strength. They showed us only shadows, and we feared them. Now the shadows are gone, or so it seems. But tell me this. What ruler here will risk their empire to test it?" Silence fell. One by one, eyes turned downward. The Kreln warlord clenched his fists but did not answer. The Ixari minister narrowed her gaze but did not speak. No one dared to be the first to strike, not when the cost of being wrong could mean annihilation. And so the council made its choice, not of courage but of fear. They would wait, they would watch. They would circle the edges of human space but not cross the line. The galaxy's greatest powers had chosen silence. Not because Earth's fleet stood proudly in the skies, but because of the terrifying possibility that it still existed, hidden, in the dark, ready to strike again. The council adjourned. The rulers returned to their empires. The stars grew quiet once more. And humanity, though uncertain and afraid, remained untouched. For in the end, it was not the presence of the phantom fleet that saved them. It was the fear of its return. The galaxy had grown silent again, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of waiting, of fear, of suspicion. The empires watched Earth with sharp eyes but did not move. The predators sharpened their claws but did not strike. And all the while, humanity itself remained in confusion, staring at empty skies, not knowing the truth of their vanished guardians. But far beyond the borders of human space, hidden in the dark between galaxies, the truth lived. The phantom fleet had not vanished in weakness. It had not been destroyed. It had not abandoned Earth. It had left for war. There, beyond the edge of the known stars, a shadow older than the galaxy had begun to rise. It was not an empire, not a kingdom, not a horde. It was something far worse, an ancient enemy that had slept for ages in the cold dark. The humans had found the signs first. Broken worlds drifting in silence, stars stripped of their light, colonies consumed by something no one understood. Other races ignored the warnings. They told themselves it was myth or nature or disaster, but the humans knew better. They had seen enough war, enough destruction to recognize the truth. Something was coming, something greater than any empire had ever faced. And so, the phantom fleet had chosen. They left the safety of their home, not to protect Earth in the moment, but to protect the entire galaxy from a threat it did not yet believe in. They sailed into the dark void between galaxies, into a place where no empire dared to send its ships. There, the war had already begun. The black ships of the phantom fleet clashed with shapes not born of flesh or machine. The enemy had no voices, no names, no mercy. They devoured stars and swallowed fleets whole. Yet the humans fought them, ship by ship, world by world, unseen and unrecorded. Every battle was hidden in silence, far from the eyes of the galaxy. For the soldiers of the phantom fleet, it was a lonely war. They knew they might never see Earth again. They knew their families waited for voices that would never return. Yet, they fought, because if they did not, then no one else would. Humanity had been tested many times, and each time it had chosen sacrifice. This was no different. And while the galaxy trembled in fear of Earth's silence, it never realized that its very survival depended on that same silence. But whispers of the truth began to slip through. A trader in the far rim claimed to have heard desperate human signals in the static of deep space. A lost probe drifted back, carrying images of battles fought in complete darkness, black ships against impossible shapes of fire and void. The Council dismissed these as lies, but the stories spread. Among ordinary people, rumors grew. Some said the phantom fleet had left to fight demons of the void. Others claimed they had gone to guard a secret gate at the edge of the universe. No one knew the truth, but all felt it. The humans had not vanished for nothing. And on Earth itself, a quiet pride began to mix with the fear. Families still grieved, children still waited, but whispers spread among them too. Perhaps their sons and daughters had not abandoned them. Perhaps they were out there fighting a battle too great for anyone else. Perhaps they were carrying the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders. The truth of the vanishing was not weakness, it was sacrifice. The phantom fleet had not disappeared. It had gone where no one else dared to go. And in the silence of their absence, they fought to keep the stars alive. The stars of the galaxy burned on, silent and distant. But their silence carried weight. Every empire, every ruler, every predator still waited. They sharpened their blades, polished their fleets, and whispered plans of conquest. Yet none dared to move against Earth. It was not because of armies. It was not because of treaties. It was not because of allies. It was because of fear. The Phantom Fleet was gone, and yet its presence lingered like a shadow across the stars. No one could prove it still existed. No one could say where it had gone. But no one could prove it was truly destroyed either. And that doubt, that terrible mystery, was stronger than any weapon. The Krelln warlords, who once roared for Earth's blood, now argued in silence. Their missing scouts haunted them like ghosts. They feared that if they moved, the same fate would consume their entire armada. The Ixari, clever and proud, filled their chambers with spies' reports, but the reports only gave them more questions than answers. They too hesitated, caught between greed and terror. The smaller empires watched the greater ones. If even the strongest feared to strike, how could they dare? And so, the galaxy's predators circled closer and closer, but none sank their fangs into human flesh. On Earth, life was fragile. People still looked to the skies with worry. Children still asked where their guardians had gone. Families still grieved the silence of radios, waiting for voices that never came. But slowly, very slowly, hope began to rise. The people realized that the very silence of the fleet was holding their enemies back. They began to whisper among themselves. What if the fleet returns tomorrow? What if they are already here watching? What if the shadows never left at all? And in those whispers, courage began to bloom again. The galaxy too could not escape the legend. In every corner of space, in every starport and council chamber, the same thought haunted every mind. What if the Phantom Fleet comes back? Because if it returned, it would not come with warning. It would not come with diplomacy. It would come, like it always had, silent, sudden, unstoppable. And those who had dared to strike would vanish into fire and shadows. That thought was enough. Enough to freeze armies in their hangars. Enough to keep warlords pacing in frustration. Enough to keep predators waiting, watching, but never daring to bite. The absence of the Phantom Fleet had become its greatest weapon. And so Earth remained untouched. Vulnerable in truth, but invincible in legend. A planet defended not by ships in the sky, but by the fear that lived in the hearts of its enemies. Yet, far away, in the void beyond galaxies, the Phantom Fleet still fought. Its crews gave their lives in silence, carrying a burden the galaxy did not understand. Their families might never know the truth, but their sacrifice was the reason Earth still breathed freely. The galaxy did not thank them. The galaxy did not see them, but the galaxy was safe because of them. And one day, perhaps, when the ancient enemy was defeated, the shadows would return. The black ships would once again glide into the skies of Earth, scarred but unbroken. Families would hear the voices of their lost ones. Children would look up and see the guardians they had only known in stories. Until then, the legend was enough. The galaxy stood silent, not in peace, but in fear. Fear of the humans, fear of their shadows, fear of what they might still be hiding. Even vanished, the Phantom Fleet protected humanity. Even gone, they held the galaxy in chains of dread. For that was humanity's true power, not just strength, not just weapons, but the ability to haunt the stars themselves. The hunters became the hunted. The galaxy bowed to silence. And Earth endured.